So welcome. We've got Cathi Cullen and Dave Boonstoppel joining us now. Cathi was with the Shelter Canada team that went to El Salvador earlier this year, and Dave's our missions slash global outreach or GO team chair. And Cathy's just going to walk us through some of the highlights of her trip. So Cathi, can you just introduce us to how many trips this has been and how long the Shelter Canada outreach has been going on? I think there was an earthquake that really got it kicked off.
Yes, it was an earthquake. I think that was 2007 or 8, maybe. I've been going to El Salvador. This is was my fifth trip. And right off the top, I want to say thank you very much to all those who donated so that we could build houses. We were able to build 12 houses this year. And I'm really, really grateful that the Lord supplied that and that you were part of that.
That's great. Now, you've got some slides here for us. Can you basically walk us through what the team experienced there?
Well, the first picture is some of the team that we worked with down there, the nationals that worked for Shelter Canada all year round. On the left is Patricia, who's been our translator the last 3 years that I've gone, and on the far right is Eunice, or Eunice, as they say, who's also a translator, and next to her is Donald, and he's kind of the boss of the national team. He doesn't want to claim that title, but that's what they call him. And then a couple of fellows that drive our team around to the different sites. The first day that we get to El Salvador, well, we get there on a Saturday, and on the Sunday, we get to meet the families, and the translators plan a lot of games for us to interact with the national families and get to know them. And it's a lot of fun, a lot of foolishness, but it's a lot of fun. On the Sunday afternoon, we got to have our church service on the volcano this year. That was quite an experience. A few shots of that. There's Brenda Stein. A lot of you remember Brenda Stein. It's a team leader. And those rocks got really hot. I couldn't figure out whether they were just warm from the sun from that day or whether they're hot because it's a volcano. There's Patricia, our translator, again. On day one of building, there's not a whole lot of the jobs that I can do on the building site. So after I had finished doing what I could do, and there were just so many people on the site that were taking over, I went to help Brenda, and we worked with the children and the women. And this is Edwin and Stephen, and they're doing some coloring. Later that day, I played soccer with them, and Stephen was doing really, really well at speaking English. It was a lot of fun, and to be able to connect with the women and children that way makes you feel more the part of the team when you can't get in there and do all the heavy building. It's just a really exciting experience to be part of that.
I was going to ask how the language barrier, whether it was much of a problem. So you mentioned there about some of them spoke English.
Not a lot of the nationals do. So you want to keep the translator pretty close, but you can do a lot with sign language and smiling. This was Christina. She was actually the mother of the couple that we built the first house for. And this was a way that she could earn a little bit of money grinding corn, having this corn grinder in the neighborhood, and the ladies would come from the community and grind their corn there. Christina's husband had to leave the country with their youngest son and come to the States. We're not exactly sure why, but she was pretty sad, and we prayed for her and hugged her, and it was just really good to be there for her.
What would be the typical meal that would be made with the flour that we're seeing out of the corn grinder here?
They eat a lot of tortillas. You'll see some pictures of those. That seems to be their staple. This is Jonathan and Jacqueline, the first house that we built.
And the materials come from Canada, or where are the materials from?
Right in El Salvador. We'll see where the pieces are made in a few slides over. Now this is a real test to your missionary spirit. This is kind of typical of what we have to use when they're there, but at least this door closed, which is not typical of all of them. This is one of my team members, and she refused to use it.
Looks well ventilated.
Yes, it is that. That one was swarming with mosquitoes. Now here's the house as it goes up. And see the sections being put together. And this was the second home that we built. Another family that we built for. This lady's husband had left for the States 10 years ago. And it was just hard to imagine how somebody could go away and leave a beautiful family like that. But thankful that we could have a part in giving them a new home. When we met together with them after building the house, we asked what we could pray for them. And she said, pray that my boys won't get harmed or recruited by the gangs. Gangs are a big problem in El Salvador. It's another house that we built, part of the team. There's Ed Stein. And Brenda, again, this is at the factory where the homes are made, the different pieces that are fabricated, and then all these pieces are taken to the home sites and the team puts it together. And that day we were praying that God would supply another supplier for the steel because they didn't have any more material to work with. And a couple more teams were coming in after us and they didn't have enough frames for houses. So that was a really intense prayer that day. This is something I didn't get to see before because we only build the frame of the house, and there's always this gap at the bottom and a dirt floor when we leave. But this time we got to see the Shelter Canada team that goes in, the nationals go in after the house is built, and they fill it in underneath the walls there with those cement blocks, and they put in the cement floor. So for a lot of those people, that's the first time they'll have a floor they can actually sweep. No more dirt floor. Was
Things
really
that
nice.
we take for granted.
Oh, for sure. This is Samuel. He works for Shelter Canada, but he's also a pastor. Gotten to really love him and his wife Brenda over the years, and she's one of our translators. The highlight of the whole week is the Friday when we have the key ceremony, and here's where we get to present the keys to the families. We get to pick which family we want to present to and pick out a Bible verse that we want, that's especially meaningful, that we want to give them. And in the Bible that's presented to them, they highlight that verse so that when they look at their Bible at home, they can go back to that verse, and I know that was God's special message to them. It's such an exciting time, and the gospel is presented. There's a time of worship, and at the ceremony this year, one of the fellows came forward to accept Jesus. So that's the best of all, because we want to give them more than a house. We want to know that they will spend eternity in a home with Jesus.
Praise God, that's very special, an eternal home, not just a temporary one.
Yes, that's way more important. Here's the ceremony again, and they get a broom because they've got a floor to sweep now. And then we stood behind them and laid hands on them and presented them to the Lord. It was very, very meaningful.
So is this 8 homes? I'm seeing 8 buckets, I think.
Actually, we're 12. We did 4 a day for 3 days.
Wow.
And there's some of the team and some of the families. They all wanted to take their turn getting a picture with the team. And then there's the piñatas. The kids really enjoy the piñatas, and Brenda and Ed getting in on it too, giving them a few whacks.
And they're filled with candy, or?
Yes, candy. Just, everybody's in there. Even they do one for the boys and one for the girls. And even the adults were right in there. Now there's the tortillas that are very typical. And I never drank so much Coke in my life as I do in El Salvador, but it's good for traveler's tummy. We got to be a little bit of a tourist on the way home from the key ceremony. We got a ride in the boat around the lagoon. It was very nice and relaxing. Another El Salvadorian meal with the refried beans and the plantain.
Plantain is similar to banana, right?
Similar, yes. But they cook it and eat like that. And there's the hotel where we stay before we fly home. Just a little bit of luxury after some of those outhouses we had to visit. Quite a contrast.
Thank you very much for sharing those with us. Dave, I didn't give you much opportunity to ask questions. Did you have anything else you wanted to ask Cathi?
I was just wondering if somebody wants to be part of this for next year's trip, if there is one. Is there a website we can find out more? Or we just talk to you, Cathi, or we get a hold of Ed?
Talk to me or visit the Shelter Canada website or contact Ed and Brenda Stein. Yeah, there is a question of whether there will be a team next year because will they let us into the country? Mm-hmm. That's the big question.
All right. And the other thing is, in what way can Huron Chapel and its members pray for this ministry?
Well, right now, prayer for that national team, because without our teams going in, they don't have an income and they can't aren't getting the houses to build because the teams aren't coming in. So pray for them that they will stand true to the Lord and that their needs will be supplied. And my concern too is for one of the translators that we had, not one of the ones that was in the picture, but she wasn't a believer, and I didn't know that till about the end of the week. And I thought, she gets to read those Bible verses to the families, and what does she think when she reads them? She doesn't know the Lord, and I'm just praying that all this contact with the Christians, that she'll see her need of Jesus too.
Well, thank you both for taking this time. Thank you, Cathi, for presenting the slides and walking us through them. And we'll be praying for the continued ministry of Shelter Canada and the people down in El Salvador. Thank you, and God bless.
Yeah, thank you.